गुड मॉर्निंग व्यूअर्स। नीट रिवीजन क्लास में आपका स्वागत है। बायोलॉजी क्वेश्चन प्रैक्टिस। An important evidence in favor of organic evolution is the occurrence of homologous and analogous organs, homologous and vestigial organs, analogous and vestigial organs, homologous organs only. The correct answer is homologous and vestigial organ. Explanation. Homologous structure have the same embryonic origin and basic structure, though they may or may not perform the same function. Homologous structure show that the animal which possess them have common ancestry and show evolution by divergence from the ancestral type. Vestigial organs are those which have ceased to be any use to their possessor but still persist generation after generation in a reduced form. They are retrogressive organs but were well developed and functional in the ancestors. Question number. A major breakthrough in the study of cells came with the development of electron microscope. This is because the answer is B. The resolution power of the electron microscope is much higher than that of the light microscope. Explanation. Microscopes are used for studying cellular structures. They are used to magnify small objects. In electron microscope, a high energy beam of electron is focused through electromagnetic lenses. It can magnify their small details with high resolving power. The increased resolution results from the shorter wavelength of the electron beam. Questions. People living at sea level have around 5 million RBC per cubic millimeter of their blood, whereas those living at an altitude to 5,400 meters have around 8 millions. This is because at high altitude. The answer is C. Atmospheric oxygen level is less and hence more RBC are needed to absorb the required amount of oxygen to survive. Explanation. At high altitude, composition of air remains almost same as at sea level, but density of air gradually decreases due to the which arterial pressure is also decreased. High altitude present with complex condition to which human body has to acclimatize. Number of red blood cells per unit volume of blood is likely to be higher in a person living at high altitude. This is an response to the air being less dense at high altitude. More number of red blood cells are needed to trap oxygen from rarefied air having low partial pressure of oxygen. Questions. Which of the following statements regarding cilia is not correct? Answer is B. The organized beating of cilia is controlled by flux of calcium ion across the membrane. Explanation. Cilia are fine hair-like vibratile cytoplasmic process borne by certain cell types. Their movement either propel the organism or move the medium past a fixed cell. The cilia are enclosed by a unit membrane which is an extension of the plasma membrane of the cell. Within the membrane is a fluid matrix having a supporting axial shaft या axoneme. The axoneme is composed of 11 microtubules. 2 microtubules are single and lie at the center with a gap in between. They are called central singlets. The remaining 9 microtubules are double and lie in a ring around the central microtubules. The 2 microtubules forming a doublet are named A and B subtubules. Questions. How many ATP molecules could maximally be generated from one molecule of glucose if the complete oxidation of 1 mole of glucose to carbon dioxide and water yields 686 kilocalorie and the useful chemical energy available in the high energy phosphate bond of 1 mole of ATP is 12 kilocalorie. The answer is D. 57. Explanation. 1 mole of ATP liberates 12 kilocalorie of energy. So 686 kilocalorie will be liberated by 686 divided by 12 is equal to 57.1 ATP molecules. Questions. Which of the following statements regarding mitochondrial membrane is not correct? The answer is C. The enzymes of the electron transfer chain are embedded in the outer membrane. Explanation. Mitochondria are membrane enclosed organelles distributed through the cytosol of most eukaryotic cells. Their main function is the conversion of the potential energy of food molecules into ATP. Mitochondria have an outer membrane which allow the passage of most small molecule and ions and a highly folded inner membrane which does not even allow the passage of a small ions and so maintain a closed space between the cell. The electron transferring molecules of the respiratory chain, also called the electron transport chain, and the enzyme responsible for ATP synthesis are located in and on this inner membrane, while the space inside the contain the enzymes of the TCA cycle. The enzyme system primarily responsible for the release and subsequent oxidation of reducing equivalent are thus closely related so that the reduced coenzyme formed during catabolism are available as substrates for respiration. The electron transport chain is a sequence of complex that accept electrons from electron donors such as NADH or succinate shuttle these electrons across the mitochondrial membrane, creating an electrical and chemical gradient, and through the proton-driven chemistry of the ATP synthesized, generate adenosine triphosphate. Questions. An organic substance bound to an enzyme and essential, its activity is called. The answer is coenzyme. Explanation. A coenzyme is an organic non-protein molecule that is the functional part of an enzyme. It plays an accessory role in enzyme catalyzed process, often by acting as a donor or acceptor of a substance involved in the reaction. ATP and NAD are common coenzymes. Isoenzymes are isoforms of enzymes. It performs the same function as another enzyme but having a different set of amino acids. Holoenzyme may refer either to the complete and operative form of an enzyme with multiple protein subunits or to the combination of an apoenzyme with its cofactor. An apoenzyme is an enzyme without its cofactor, that is the protein molecule to which a coenzyme will bind to produce the holoenzyme. Questions. Amino acid sequence in protein synthesis is decided by the sequence of. The answer is messenger RNA. Explanation. Messenger RNA is a RNA molecule usually 400 to 10,000 bases long that serve as templates for protein synthesis. In eukaryotes, they have characteristics post-transcriptional modifications, the 5' cap and poly A tail. The base sequence of an mRNA transcript completely specify the corresponding polypeptide amino acid sequence. Ribosomal RNA is a type of RNA that forms structural and functional components of ribosome, binds to both mRNA and tRNA to ensure the correct order of amino acid in a protein during translation. Transfer RNA is a class of RNA having a structure with triplet nucleotide sequence that are complementary to the triplet nucleotide coding sequence of messenger RNA. The role of transfer RNA in protein synthesis is to bond with amino acid and transfer them to the ribosomes, where proteins are assembled according to the genetic code carried by messenger RNA. cDNA is a single strand of DNA synthesized in the lab to complement the bases in a given strand of messenger RNA. Complementary DNA represents the parts of a gene that are expressed in a cell to produce a protein. Questions. Kerning of tea leaves is brought about by the activity of. The answer is bacteria. Explanation. The kerning of tea leaves is done by fermentative action of Micrococcus candidians. By this process, special flavor and the taste is developed in the tea leaves. Micrococcus is a gram-positive aerobic bacterium which is a member of the Micrococci family. Question. In a moss, the saprophyte The answer is B. Is partially parasitic on the gametophyte. Explanation. Mosses are bryophytes or non-vascular plants. Aside from lacking a vascular system, they have a gametophyte dominant life cycle, that is, the plant's cells are haploid for most of its life cycle. Sporophytes are short-lived and dependent on the gametophyte. Questions. Conifers differ from grasses in the. Answer is A. Formation of endosperms before fertilization. Explanation. Gymnosperms are the small group of plants which constitutes a subdivisions of spermatophyta or pherogamas. These are with naked seeds. No fruits or flowers. Have two classes, cycadales and conifers. In conifers, the megaspore undergoes many free nuclear division to form a multicellular tissue, which is termed as female prothallus or. Questions. What type of plantation is seen in sweet pea? The answer is A. Marginal. Explanation. Placentation refers to the pattern of attachment of ovules within the ovary on placenta. Placentation seen in sweet pea is marginal type, in which ovary is unilocular and ovules are born on margin. Questions. In which mode of inheritance do you expect more maternal influence among the offspring? The answer is C. Cytoplasmic. Explanation. Cytoplasmic inheritance is transmission of inherited character by a DNA of extracellular organelle of mitochondria and chloroplast. Since in many species the cytoplasm of the fertilized egg contain no sperm cytoplasm, the genetics of cytoplasmic organelle is most often non-Mendelian and often exclusively maternal. Thus, the mitochondria of higher vertebrata are believed to be exclusively of maternal origin. Questions. Long filamentous threads protruding at the end of a young cob of maize are. The answer is C. Styles. Explanation. In maize, the male inflorescence occupies the terminal position on the main axis, whereas the female inflorescence are borne on modified lateral branches in the axil of leaves. The ear producing branch has short internodes and bears a female spike at its apex. Each spikelet has a pair of small membranous glumes and two florets. The feathery style of the female florets are long and emerge out of the cob to expose stigma for wind pollination. The tip of the style has. Questions. Moss peat is used as a packing material for sending flowers and leaf plants to distant places because. The answer is C. It is hygroscopic. Explanation. Moss peat in acidic bogs where it helps in formation of peat, hence called peat moss. It has the capacity to retain water for long period and thus used to cover plant roots during transportation. Questions. Which of the following environmental conditions are essential for optimum growth of mucor on a piece of bread? The answer is C. A. Temperature of about 25 degrees Celsius. D. Relative humidity of about 95%. E. A sandy place. Questions. Two microbes found to be very useful in genetic engineering are the answer is B. Escherichia coli and Agrobacterium tumefaciens. Questions. Evolutionary history of an organism is known as the answer is B. Phylogeny. Questions. In which of the following fruits the edible part is the aril? The answer is A. Lychee. Questions. Which of the following amino acid was not found to be synthesized in Miller's experiment? The answer is D. Glutamic acid. Questions. Which of the following is considered a hot spot of biodiversity in India? The answer is B. Western Ghats. दोस्तों अभी आपने कुछ क्वेश्चंस का प्रैक्टिस किया. अगर यह वीडियो आपको अच्छी लगी तो वीडियो को शेयर करें, लाइक करें एंड सब्सक्राइब करें. थैंक्स.